So Sonia, I think you have like the best tea ever. I don't know. It's like a magical Sonia brew. I don't even know, but there is nothing like it. We're both sitting here nursing our hot cups of tea.
It's tranquil abiding.
So, what is in it?
So
What
this
in
is
it?
a huckleberry chai, and then I mix it with a couple of regular chai because I make it by the pot. So, and a little chamomile. So there's my secret recipe. Good luck finding the huckleberry chai. It's like a chai hunt. If you find it, let me know. And I'll send you a prize. Because it took me a while to find it.
So Google huckleberry chai, but I can't. And then oat milk and some honey.
Mm-hmm.
And it is just like the best thing. It's like one of my favorite things when we get together. And I am so lucky Sonia mixes her brew for me because I'm a basic girl. I like one tea in a cup and that's what I drink. And I enjoy it, don't get me wrong, but this is just layers of flavor.
Yes.
So
I
if
like
you're a tea
variety.
person, yeah. If you're a tea person, you know.
Yes.
Just like wine people know a good wine, coffee people know a good coffee, tea people know a good tea.
Yeah. Well, and I haven't been, and it's interesting because I drink this lovely chai tea because I gave up sugar, which meant I had to give up coffee. Because, and then we were talking earlier, a really good coffee doesn't require any sugar or cream or anything. Those were my espresso days.
Yes.
And so, so this has been like my sacrifice. And it doesn't feel sacrificial. But I had to find, as lovely a replacement, if you will. And, I feel like my tea these days are my Reiki cakes, right? Gone off sugar. So I haven't figured out how to work with, natural sweeteners to any degree of success in my baked goods. So I haven't been baking any good, yummy treats for us to nosh on.
Yeah.
So all we have is tea. But at least you like it. So
I love it. I love it. Yeah, the going off sugar thing, Sonia's been talking about how she has done that. She did that a while ago. Like how long ago?
Gosh, I want to say it was back in May or June. So it's been 6 or 7 or 8 months.
All right. So I have decided that is my step now. And oh, goodness gracious. I mean, and I can't even complain because of withdrawals because this is day one. And so I'm into, whatever time it is today.
Yes.
For processed sugar.
Yeah, cane sugar.
Yeah.
And it really is pretty toxic. I know we talked a lot about high fructose corn syrup and that sort of thing, but it wasn't until I went off of it that I really realized, wow, this is like, and I, like I was that big a sugar eater, but it's in everything,
right?
Like wheat, in everything,
right?
The things that you don't expect it to be in, and there's sugar. My mother is just, she cracks me up because she's forever trying to find me something that's sugar free, and she says it just says natural sugars. Well, okay, but some people consider cane sugar a natural sugar.
Right, absolutely.
So you got to look at the ingredients.
Right.
Which, seems like it's a bit much. And I'll tell you why it's not.
She's stepping up to the plate here, kids.
Because I feel so much better.
Right.
My brain is clearer. Even on foggy days, I still feel clearer. Right. I don't know how to... Well, when I first got off sugar and after I detoxed, like my brain was on fire.
Well, that sounds like that should be pleasant. I look forward to that.
I like it. You feel like a super woman. I feel like I can do everything. I've got, I'm Einstein. Let me run the country. I can fix this. You just feel so much better. And then, of course, the physical pieces to it too. And the brain fog can be a physical thing as well, but the aches in the joints, I realized that, how we say that too much sugar can make kids hyper and mean and aggressive?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could do that to adults too.
Yeah, I believe that.
And so when I've gotten some sugar that I didn't know had sugar, thank you, Royce Krispies, I get mean.
Yeah.
I get a little irritable. And so, I don't want to be irritable. I don't want to be mean. So
Right.
it's also a good reason to be like, okay, I need to stay off of it. So I didn't, going into it, look at how that might shift things. It was just a request by my people.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, sure, I can do that. It'll be easy. Ha, 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 ha. Well, it wasn't super hard. However, it's not been as easy living my best life sugar-free.
Yeah.
Because, as you know, we go out and I'm like perusing the menu,
Mm-hmm.
with my glasses on the end of my nose and my lips curled, trying to find something that I could freaking eat.
Yeah.
So, anyway, but I do feel much better.
Well, I am definitely doing it for the inflammatory.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sugar is one of the number one inflammation causing things that we eat. And so, I mean, my as Sonya said, her people, she said that and she listened. My people have been saying this for a long time. And I have gotten off of sugar before. And then I got right back on.
Right.
It's my, and honestly, I would say that sugar's my addiction.
Yeah.
It, if we're going to call anything an addiction, it would be
Right. Sugar.
It would be sugar, and it has been ever since I was a child. So, anyway, wish me luck. Let's see how this goes. But cheers to Sonia's tea with no sugar. Yay!
So, if you're wondering who the tea ladies are, I'm Sonya Lee.
And I'm Piperlyne, and thank you for joining us in my experience, excuse me.
Well, it's our experience too.
It is.
So today, it's a lovely day in the neighborhood. We are in the She Shed on Wheels.
Yes, yay.
And I really need to come up with a name for it. I've never been one to name my vehicles, though.
Neither have I. I know
It's
people.
not been my thing.
Yeah.
Like, I will refer to it with a gender pronoun.
Right. My
But
cars
not
are
always.
always her.
Yes.
I mean, if I do that,
Yes.
it's a her.
Yes.
My car is always a her.
Yes. And
But
my
yeah.
crystals always seem to be a he.
Interesting.
Right?
He crystals.
He crystals.
All right. Right.
And again, not that any of it matters because I don't really interact a whole lot with inanimate objects, which is why I'm not a big fan of Echo.
Echo.
Or Alexa.
Oh, gotcha. Alexa or the,
or Siri or any of those
Right.
kind of things. Yet, we do have a lot of technology that's available to us nowadays. And
I've seriously considered getting one of those for Nolan for his music. But in doing up one night, doing research on it, none of them have specifically exactly what I want. I mean, one of them, I think it's Amazon, has a new kids program that's just for kids where you can, control the music that they have access to, so on and so forth, that do not connect with anything outside. But it still doesn't offer the other things that I want. So I'm very specific and I haven't found it yet.
bring back CDs and vinyls. Well, they did bring back vinyls. However.
Yes. You see them at Target these
I
days.
do, and I hear they're going by the wayside again. However, I knew they'd come back. That's why I held on to mine.
I still have a box of them
Yeah.
somewhere. I'm sure that they're all warped and completely unusable because they've been
I
in a
hope
box
not.
forever.
If they are, you can turn them into functional accessories, though. I did a 50th birthday party for my mother-in-law one year. Well, the family did. And I made these, because it was 50s themed. And so I took some old records that I had and I laid them on top of a metal bowl and stuck them in the oven. And like 20 minutes later, we had these really cool bowls that were made out of records. They were really old records not old records, but just records that no one would ever want to play and listen to again. Right? So it wasn't like, because I know you're thinking, how could you do that to a vinyl? Well, trust me, it was something that I was like, anybody ever going to listen to this? Ooh, gosh, no. What?
There are
Jim
some vinyls.
Neighbors sings,
There are some vinyls that never needed to be created in the first place.
Right.
And definitely don't ever need to be listened to again.
Correct.
I
However,
agree.
so they make really cool bowls
All right.
and dishes and things like that that you can do with them. So, it's
Now we all know
upcycling.
that.
It's upcycling. Everything can have a use and a reuse. So,
That's what they say.
that's what they say. So today we're just, sitting here chatting away like we do. And one of the things that we were talking about was this lovely quote that someone in a group I'm in shared with me. And it got me thinking about how we, where we're at right now, what we're doing, how we're moving forward, our state of being.
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
What are we doing? Oh, goodness.
So it's goat. And it says, then indecision brings its own delays, and days are lost lamenting over lost days. Are you in earnest? Seize this very minute. What can you do or dream you can do? Begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. So, I just thought that was really cool. We both came off of a manifesting, 21 days manifesting program that we were doing. It kind of helps jumpstart our new year. And I've seen a lot of people, and I've talked with a lot of people and clients and such that are sort of lost in the sea of indecision.
What do we do next?
What do we do next? What do we do now? So much of our life has been, just sort of spotlight here in the United States anyway. I fully, completely understand that the whole rest of the world doesn't spend every moment of their day, and for our listeners in other countries, thinking and worrying about what's the U.S. doing now.
And bless them for not, because
Right.
there's no need.
Stay in that happy little bubble. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. How to help you get into a happy little bubble. How I get myself into a happy little bubble. I can't tell you what to do. You're going to do what you're going to do anyway. Mm-hmm. However, maybe if we share, or if I share, I don't know. I don't know what Piperlyne's going to do here.
I don't know either.
She may say, I'm keeping my secrets to myself. The things that I do to help me to stay in a happy little bubble. And it's not a bubble of denial or bypass or, head in the sand. Mm-hmm. It's just about saying, yes, I can see and be present with what's around me and do it in a discerning and or detached way that allows for my state of being to be at my own personal comfort level. It's like a sleep number bed, but it's a Sonya number bed.
Sleep number bed.
The Sonya number bubble. That's what it is. And I can turn that dial up or down. Mm-hmm. We had this refrigerator that was having all these issues with defrosting, and we finally just got rid of it. But one of the issues we found was where the thermostat, if you will, the dial to turn it up and down at the back of the fridge was in such a place where if you had too many things and you sort of pushed up against it, you could inadvertently change that number on the dial and thereby not have the refrigerator work as well. So I'm not saying that anybody's purposely turning their dial down, but maybe some stuff sort of like got crammed in and it bumped up against the,
right.
The dial and turned it down a little bit.
Got snuck in.
Snuck in, caught you by the, I don't know, wayside. I was going to say something else and I thought, maybe I don't want to say that on the air. So if you know where I was going with that, shorties, then you... I digress.
I don't know. I think we should always be free to say whatever it is that we need to say.
Don't get caught by the short hairs, okay? Because it's painful. Mm-hmm. And it's painful to live every day of your existence in fear and worry and concern and stress and strife.
Without a doubt.
And
it's exhausting.
It is exhausting.
It's painful.
Demoralizing, defeating.
It can cause you to feel hopeless.
Right. And I want to feel delightful, Delicious de lovely.
Oh, it's so scary how our mind goes to the same thing. We'll just leave it there.
I'll just leave it there. And satisfied. Like, that was my word for 2021. Satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to get me some satisfaction.
Thank you.
Because I've tried other words, and we've talked about this before, you know, so I've learned from myself that it's not so much about where I want. You have to think about the journey to get you to where you want to be as much as you think about what you're trying to anchor into.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you can take the expressway,
Right.
and sometimes you can take a fire road. And you have two very different driving experiences.
The long gravel road out in the middle
With
of
the ruts.
nowhere in the Midwest. Anyone? Does it sound familiar to anyone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And with the ruts from the water and, and
Uh-huh.
it's yes, yes, that's of what I speak.
Never been there.
And you know, again, there's a lot of serious things happening in this world, and I am a very serious. I'm a Capricorn moon.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm more serious than most of y'all,
I am way too serious many times.
and that's a bit of a problem for me now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge problem for 5-year-old Sonya. She does not like the seriousness of what we have become at all. So, in our discussion, in our talks, in our United Nations meetings, United Nation of Sonya, we have come to the table. And if you've never come to the table with a 5-year-old, I do encourage you. In fact, my broker put a post the other day about what it's like being in a house of salespeople, meaning his children who are watching him.
Mm-hmm.
And they know how to work together against him. And one had asked if the other could have some soda. And then the receiver of the soda looked at him and said, just say yes. Like, make the commitment. Right? And you just love it because they are so smart and they figure it out. And they don't have any of that doubt. Like, this is the way I saw it, so this is the way it's done.
Right.
And that level of confidence. Do you ever have the level of confidence that you have when you're 5? Think how quickly and easily they make friends. Like, I watch my granddaughter. We take her to the park. She's 5. And we get to the park, and it doesn't matter who's there. She doesn't care about physical distancing. Walks right up to them. And I've explained to her how you need to introduce yourself. You don't just walk up to people. Hi, you want to play with me? You need to introduce yourself. This is polite society. Give them a little buffer here, girlfriend, right? So hi, I'm so-and-so. You want to play with me? And then they just, whether they say yes or no doesn't matter. They just all sit down and they play together.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, just that ease. Like, think about the last time that you just walked up to somebody. You were at an event, maybe. I know it's been a while, but I think 2019.
Event.
Right?
Event.
And you just, you know, or even in the store. I was in the grocery store a while back, and I was in the tea aisle, and there was a gentleman that made a comment about the tea, and I said, oh no, I'm looking for this kind. But if you're looking for some herbal preparations to help with immunity boosting, I recommend this line. And then the next thing you know, 10 minutes later, we're exchanging business cards. So, but that was a one-off.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of my meet and greets were virtual in 2020.
Right.
And because of the type of work that I do, and being that I'm service oriented, the more people I know, the more service I get to provide.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little more open. And so I think about what it must be like for people that maybe don't have those opportunities or don't have that skill set.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my Mercury and Mars are both in Aries, and so, you know, I can talk quick and act quick and all of that. So, and we moved around a lot when I was growing up. So I kind of like to look at all of that as, you know, the big ball of wax that made me an introverted extrovert.
Mm-hmm.
And I know don't ask me what my INJF is. I know it, I just don't know what it is right now. And it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter.
Right.
If it's more about not who you are or how you relate, where you want to go and how you want to show up now. And remember, the other word for this year is the only constant is change. Mm-hmm. So regardless of all of those other things, if you want to make a change in your life, if you want to have some improvement in your life as a result of that change, then I'm going to share with you, and Piperlyne's going to share with you some of the things that we do. And maybe if you, I don't know if any of it makes sense, if any of it's like, hey, that's a good idea, give it a try, then, give it a try, because it's time for us to come out of our boxes and start making new matches and alignments. This is the North Node in Gemini. It's the partnerships, it's the partnering. And at some point, we got to jump off the crazy thing, Jetsons, and create something new. And can wait till somebody starts. Well, I've never been very good at that. Mm-hmm. I'm a body in action, body in motion. So I've started. I was waiting on the world to change. That was 2020. Almost a whole year. Actually, it was a year for me because I went into lockdown in December 28th of 2019, if you remember correctly.
That is true. She did that to herself.
I did. I did it to myself.
She always likes to be the front of the class.
I'm not going to say that's not true. And it's just so that I can be helpful. I can be helpful, right? Mm-hmm. I think I should have been a tour guide, perhaps. So I could take people around and show them things.
Well, we have talked about Julie and the Love Boat.
Right.
So, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Julie and the Love Boat.
Yes. So those of you who remember the Love Boat. You don't ever want me to sing, so that's as far as it's going to go.
That was nice, though.
But you all know who Julie is. And she was like, I think, honestly, she's the reason why I ended up getting into the travel industry, right?
Wow.
I worked in the airline for 20 years. So I never made it on a cruise ship. I still haven't made it on a cruise ship. But I did.
You don't want to go on a cruise ship right now, though.
No, I'm good. I'm good with that. But I was the hostess with the mostest on an aircraft or at the gate or so on and so forth. So, yeah. You've got two Julie wannabes here talking at you right now.
And, and I think, too, that sort of presence, if you will, for the job or whatever. Right. Like, I clearly can remember my cousin and I growing up for a period of time. We all sort of lived close to each other in California, and the paternal brothers and sisters all made the trek across country from Virginia. Mm-hmm. And so for a while there, we had like this one like big old cul-de-sac sort of street in Westminster where we just ran that street. Like we were like Lord of the Flies. There was, I don't know, a lot of us. And they ranged in age from, I think the oldest one was like maybe 19 down to the youngest one that was probably maybe baby. A couple weren't born yet, maybe a year old or something. So she didn't really participate. But most of us were in that, 4 to 13 age range. And, we were kind of the ringleaders, We had the biggest mouths. We were both the oldest daughters. We're responsible for keeping an eye on our younger brothers and make sure they didn't kill each other or themselves. Right. So, we were kind of the, no, this is what we're going to do, and we designed the games and we played the games and we did the things and all of that. And so, that was sort of early training and development of, follow me, we're going to do this over here. Earlier teacher training skills, right? And then, as we grow up and get into things, but I feel like, a lot of that also helped to be able to just keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. And to take your lemons and make lemonade, right? Like if somebody got hurt, I would give the appropriate moment of letting them cry, dusting them off, running over with a little, somebody give me your t-shirt, and we go get the water out of the water fountain, and we come back and we wipe the gravel out of the knees, and are you okay? But meanwhile, everybody's like, come on, let's go play, and you're like, hold on, he hurt himself here, don't be a jerk, right? We weren't a jerk when you fell and was crying like a baby last week, right? So, and then you get him, you're like, you okay now? You're okay. Come on, you're okay. Stand up on it. Now you can walk. You'll be fine. Come on. Shake it off. Let's do it. Let's do this, And then you make them laugh, and then they're laughing, and then the next thing you know, they're running because this is what kids do. We're resilient, right? Mm-hmm. So we also learn resiliency. So resiliency, moving forward, putting a positive spin on things. These are all functions that help us to move through the day in life as we were trying to figure out what the hell we were doing here in the first place. That was nighttime. Anyway, And then you come into adulthood. And then, you start adulting. And then life gets hard and challenging, and you have children, or you don't, and you have marriages, or you don't, or you have partners, or you don't, or whatever. And you start to feel the weight of the world on your shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And before you know it, you got that whole turtle hump. Like you look like a, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle walking around life, and your lips are all drooping down. I always look in the mirror, too, to see. They have to be at least neutral. I don't want no downward. I did a little face reading class once, and that was kind of one of the things. That auspicious and inauspicious. So you don't want a downward tilting mouth. That's inauspicious.
Oh, and you don't want inauspicious.
No. No.
No.
No, we're here for earthly goods and abundance.
Auspiciousness.
Auspiciousness. So anyway, I feel like that did help me to be able to know that I could make a choice. Mm-hmm. Right? Because I had a period of time where my decision was everything sucked. Mm-hmm. I've had those moments. I'm not going to say I haven't had those moments, because I have. I have found, though, in my half a century here on this planet, this time, and it's so much easier this time. Can I just say that? Like, seriously, compared to past life experiences that I've gone through, this is like the easiest thing ever. The problem in this lifetime is
because people aren't trying to kill you
at every turn. Or I'm inadvertently killing myself.
Well, that'll do it too.
At every turn.
Right.
So anyway, I think it's just too many choices. I think it's too easy. We haven't stormed a castle in this life. Anybody stormed a castle in this lifetime?
No.
And if you did, why didn't you invite me?
No castles.
Right. Taking over a country, poisoned a well.
Right.
Right? So all in all, and I'm not trying to minimize it, what I am trying to do is give a little lighthearted perspective. This is what I have to do with myself. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this podcast, because I'd be in the bed with the covers over my head, right? Just waiting for the day and the life to be over.
Well, and history supports you. I mean, even with everything that is going on, we are still in a place that our life is not anywhere near as bad as day-to-day normal life used to be, at least in our country, in the United States. Now, that may still be true in other countries.
Absolutely.
But we're talking about us and our experience, and that's where we are.
Yeah.
And
I can only talk about this soul and its incarnations as such.
This space, this right now, and what I do with what I have and what I know and what I don't know. And it was so interesting, because when you brought up the story about the kids, right? And taking care of the knee.
Yes.
I love the story. And because these are things that I'm paying attention to right now, what I went to was playing, right? You were talking about resilience and moving forward and so on and so forth. And I went to playing and self-care. Right? So in the instance you gave, someone else is helping to care for you, right? And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. And that isn't always available.
Right. No, I was taking care of somebody else, but yes.
Yes, that's what I meant. Yes. That's what I meant.
Yes. Yes.
You were helping someone else, and receiving help from someone else isn't always an option. So the whole self-care thing and the whole play thing and being like, I will sing to Nolan. Right. Just like random things. It's time to put our coat on so we can go outside. It's time to put our coat on. And he thinks it's great. And it's just silly and stupid, but that's what I do.
Yes.
And that's part of my play.
Yes.
That's part of my play. And self-care, right? I've been talking about this forever. Well, forever. Forever in the podcast. Forever. Forever podcast. And being reminded, right? I know this. I'm a certified yoga teacher. I know this.
Yes.
I already know this. And I am being reminded, you know what? If you just sit down and do stretches for 10 minutes, that's a good thing.
It's a very good thing. It's a changing thing.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
And you can start there.
Absolutely.
Right? And in the work that I do with my clients, you start where you are with what you got.
Absolutely.
And yet, being reminded to do that in my own life,
Yeah.
is, I always find, look at what you say to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in a loving, supportive, and caring way.
Yes.
And maybe try some of that shit yourself.
Yes. Because sometimes in the sharing, there's still that one pointing finger, three pointing back at you.
Right.
I mean, you're not telling somebody something, you're sharing.
Right.
There's still
Or, just in
reflection,
conversation. Absolutely.
projection.
You're having that conversation for them just as much as yourself.
Yep.
I mean, that's probably how I've gotten everything out of my life.
Well, and we've talked to you about how the people that come to us is because they need our medicine, which means we had to have the ingredients in which to create that medicine,
Right.
not only for ourselves but to share with others.
Right.
Something else I was going to say about what you said. Oh, and self-care, the thing I've come to learn about self-care is in order to practice self-care, I believe you must first commit to it for yourself. So the first step is committing to your own self-care practice, like making the commitment to yourself.
Right.
Like, I'm going to do something that looks like or resembles this thing they call self-care, of which I know nothing. And yet I will Google.
I will Google self-care.
Or I will ask people I know,
Right.
which will allow me to network. Two birds with one stone.
There you go.
And I will learn about self-care.
Right.
And I say that in a joking manner, but we all do it. We all do it. I do it. We all do it. And so that's been my thing. Just first step, make the commitment. Right? That's all. Day one. Commit to committing to self-care.
And I want to point out too, right, the way that we started this conversation with me just going on about the tea.
Mm-hmm.
And Sonya talking about how the changes she made in her life, that this was something that she gave herself.
My self-care.
So this is totally self-care. It is pleasurable, right? So this is not, oh God, now I have to go do blah.
I'm not
It's self-care.
sacrificing without a reward.
So it doesn't look like anything other than what you choose for it to look like.
So 100% true.
And I think that, I mean, there are studies that talk about how women give too much of themselves as mothers and caregivers and so on and so forth. And and I don't disagree with that at all, right? Been there,
Yes.
done that.
Yes. And more
I
and more
got the
we're
first
seeing,
place trophy
Right?
for it.
You took first prize?
Well, for a period of time there, I
Okay.
did.
That year.
Yeah, that year. But so, and that's true. But I think it's also it's important to point out that our society, that has not been a thing.
At all.
That is not something that we're taught. That is not something.
It's certainly not something that is prized.
No, thank you. That was exactly. I was like, okay, what's the word that I want to use? But yeah, it's not prized. It's not. We're not told growing up that it's important that we take care of ourselves. Now, there are patches of groups of people, and maybe you were lucky to have parents that way,
Yes.
or you learned around the bend somewhere. But
Right.
for the most part, our society doesn't support that.
Correct.
And so we need to teach ourselves.
It's a go, 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 do, 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 doobie, doobie, do.
How much can you make? How much
Yeah.
can you show? How much can you buy? How
Right.
high
How
can you
can
go
I
on the ladder?
achieve?
Yeah.
And there's not that there's anything wrong with that.
Nope.
What I find so interesting, though, as I have talked with so many, and you can go and look it up yourself. This is people that I actually know, not a Warren Buffett. But I believe Warren Buffett
You
might
don't
have
know
said
Warren
this
Buffett?
as well. Not personally.
Not yet.
I had an opportunity to meet him once, and I was talking with Sylvester Stallone instead.
Oh, you're too busy. Sorry.
Anyway, I was a Rambo fan. What can I say? So anyway, talking with people that I know that have made and achieved certain goals that were monetary, strictly. I want to be a millionaire by the age of 40. Time and time again, or I want to make the president of the company, or I want to do this. Less than satisfactory once they get it. You know, not to say that they would give it all up, not saying they'd go there.
Right.
Just didn't have the sweetness
Yeah.
that they thought it would have once they achieved that goal. And there are lots of reasons for that. The growth that they went through the process, perhaps the pain that they suffered that made the trade-off less than, you know, acceptable. Or simply just realizing, hey, maybe money's not the answer to everything, right? So a lot of varied reasons. And my point is just that that level of satisfaction was not there.
Right.
And some I've spoken with have actually expressed that, you know, I question whether it was worth it. I question whether the sacrifice was worth it, right? So when you take all that in, when I take all of that in, because I'm very much an observer, and I'm a question girl. So, and I moved around a lot. So I've seen a lot of different kinds of people in a lot of different kinds of places and life experiences. And I've decided that that works, that doesn't, that's good, that's not. How do I want to do this now, right? And so, in essence, I've spent, you know, my life trying to find that balance.
Right.
And there are a lot of men that also are experiencing this now, especially a lot of the younger men, of sort of carrying more of the load of, you know, nurturance and all these other things. So I think it's even more now. It used to be sort of more laid into one side or the other, right? Like success, what success means to men and what success means to women were vastly different in a lot of studies from the 70s and 80s and even the 90s. And now we might find that some of those actually sort of cross over, which I think in one way shows that other people are observational and are seeing and learning and maybe trying, or maybe we're going the wrong way. Like maybe instead of us seeing going, that didn't seem to work, so I think I'll do this instead. No, we're just going to partner together like Wonder Twins activate and both build a life of drudgery together.
So that's not what I'm looking for.
So, right? Did you think I was going to go there? Because I do believe that as I've looked around the globe, like we said, we here in the Western world really are in United States, really are much more focused on doing rather than being. And even in our learning of the state of being and trying to adopt that, we're doing it.
We start out by doing. How do I do being?
Right. Yeah. Stop
the
doing.
book of how.
Stop doing. Yeah. Stop howing. The rest of the world has that rest and restore part that I think that we have to pencil or schedule into our lives. And I know I have. And I know for a lot of years I didn't. And it made me sick. And then when I started to get well, and I realized that that was because even though I might have taken my time when I needed it, that was exactly what I was doing. It wasn't creating a space that made me as equal as everyone else. I would go until there was nothing left of my wick, and then right before I burnt out, I'd explode and then take my time. And that didn't work either.
Right.
So, and I couldn't sustain well, I'll just be the selfless martyr in all of this. Again, Martian Aries
doesn't play martyr.
Yeah.
I don't play
nor
martyr.
does Mercury in Aries, really.
Yeah.
So I had to find something different. And also because I like to take ownership for my own crap, I knew that it had to start with me. And so what makes me, first was what makes me happy. Yeah, well, that didn't work. Well, then what brings me joy. I'm the joy detective. Okay, well, that worked for a while. Then what, so you go through all these different alliterations, and where am I at this year? What is satisfactory to me? Now, the reason that I chose that word is because what I'm looking at now is that you can't always be happy, right? Or even joyful, because sometimes sad things happen. Sometimes things happen that make your ears, your hair get on fire. But satisfaction seems to be more of a generalized, I think of malaise and satisfaction as the 2 points, right? It's more general, and I love that word too, malaise.
Malaise,
right?
yeah. We don't use that word often enough.
Not nearly enough. So, on the spectrum of malaise to satisfaction, I want the overarching theme of my daily walk to be satisfactory. And so, what can I create within the day to help me to have that touch point? Sort of the check-in, if you will, right?
Right.
And so these are the practices that I have created for myself. These are the, make the commitment to my self-care. Because when I take care of myself, I feel better. When I feel better, I think better. When I think better, I feel better. When I feel better, I know things, right? It brings in all of those, components of the mind, body, emotion, body, spirit. And then I actually have to be with the things that I am actively doing through my day. Like yesterday, I didn't do any yoga. This morning, I'm stiff. Now, I could call that I slept funny. Maybe I got some wheat in something on accident or sugar. Because it's insidious, people. It's insidious. Or maybe it's because I didn't stretch.
Right.
And by being too busy to stretch yesterday, today I'm a little tighter. So I'll stretch this afternoon and then, I'm sure I'll feel better. And I'm not beating myself. I'm like, well, of course you're hurting because you didn't stretch yesterday. No, I'm just going, oh, okay, I'm feeling the result of not taking an action yesterday in my practice for myself.
Neutralizing it.
Right.
Neutralizing it. So then you don't have the rebound or the boomerang of the negative talk that comes with not making that decision.
Exactly.
I think the important thing that you bring up is focusing on the state of being as opposed to the thing.
Yes.
Right? Yes. So malaise and satisfaction being your spectrum. The words that I came up with, as she mentioned, we've been doing a manifesting program, 21 day. And so the words that I came up with were balance and peace.
Ooh.
So, and balance, it is very simply balance, right? It doesn't mean we're not static beings. So we get tipped from one side to another or back and forth, around and around. And so coming to the place where I know how to remain in balance. And I have been tapped in. I mean, I've been paying attention to what has been going on in the country, and my job has been to maintain my balance and peace. So once again, I do want to change my location for a number of different reasons. My peace cannot be reliant on that because it is internal and it's not based off of what is going on externally. My sense of peace is based off of what is going on internally and my response to it or lack of response or reaction to it. So those were my focus words. And so with those words, I can look at my self-care and look at what brings me that and then make a decision from there. And just like she said, and then if I choose not to do that, then I get to experience what it's like when I choose not to act in a way that supports the state of being that I wish to have. So that's my approach and my take on it. And it is, once again, it's not about beating up. Girl, I have been down that road. I can beat myself up like no one else. I don't need any help. I can do it. I'm an expert at it. I just don't want to do it anymore.
And I agree wholeheartedly. Like that has to just come out of the equation. In like that's, 2020. I was like, and we're done with that because
Yeah, there's no release the shame.
Yeah, there's no usefulness in that at all. I think another big point too, and maybe it's an age thing. I don't know. I don't see it as much. I don't know, but in recognizing that, I get to create a new set of rules.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to live by anything shame-inducing or otherwise.
Right.
Because I get to make this stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, and it's part of my sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We've talked about this before too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And another example of, that happened yesterday. It was like yesterday was like the, hey, where you at? We're checking in on you kind of day. I just totally spaced paying a bill. And as such, there was a $60 late fee, which just chapped my, ooh. And then I'm like, you going to let that trigger you? Like I put it in perspective and I laughed because while it was $60, the perspective that I had took me to something that I had heard years ago from a family member about a friend of theirs where she had this friend that attributed the cost of anything to the price of 2 Jack in the Box tacos when they were two for $1.
Yes.
Right? So here's these Jack in the Box tacos, 2 for $1. And it didn't matter what it was.
Mm-hmm.
You could say, yeah, I just went, I got this new great pair of Vans and, I got them on sale and they were $30. $30? I could have bought 60 tacos for that amount of money, right? And it just became this running little joke. But that was kind of what popped into my head in that moment.
Yeah.
And it was like, and again, not that I'm just like, yes, I'm just, money everywhere. But I'm not letting money hook me in that manner. Like I brought it, yes, would it have been better if I had just paid the bill and when I got it and not set it aside and said, oh, I'll get to that in another day and not have a $60 late fee? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I didn't. So pay the $60, move on with your life. There's nothing to see here, people. It's like Officer Barb Brady in South Park. Nothing to see here, people. Keep it moving. And I had to stop myself and stop all those emotions.
Right.
And say, why? What's the purpose? Mm-hmm. It's making you feel all yucky inside.
And it doesn't change a thing.
No, I still have to pay the $60.
Right.
But
bill
now
still
I feel
has to be passed.
right.
Yeah.
And now instead of moving on and leaving it behind me, no, I'm going to carry it with me in my gut churning.
Right.
And in my brain burning.
Right.
And I just said, no, I think I'm going to let this go. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to recognize that it's only $60, and this is all that it takes for me to make $60, and it'll be all right. And so sure enough, I went about my day, and as such, I had an opportunity to make that money back.
Right.
Like within a matter of hours.
Right.
Now, it could have happened anyway. I like to attribute it to the fact that I allowed that negative energy to leave me so that I could get back into that satisfied state of being,
right,
which felt really good. And in that space, I was able to manifest that money right back.
Right.
And if it was a test, so be it. I made $60. Am I going to complain about that? No.
Right.
I used to fight the universe in their tests because I'm so stubborn and hard-headed. And now and then I reminded myself, I was that horrible kid in the classroom that got excited when the teacher said pop quiz. Mm-hmm. I don't mind tests. I like tests. I can pass a test. Mm-hmm. So that's how I roll with that now. Maybe that might be something that you might want to explore and look at. I don't know.
Right.
I'm just saying this is decisions I'm making, and I'm seeing the success and the satisfaction that's coming through allowing my state of being to be my number one priority above everything else except for, hygiene.
Well, sometimes taking care of hygiene brings my state of balance and peacefulness. But yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about that. It's like, really, I have to shower again.
some days. It's so much work, right? And then I remind myself how, back a long time ago, this is what a posy was, right? Ring around the rosies, pocket full of posies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, a posy was a little bouquet of flowers that they kept in their little, glove or hem of their, or a cuff of their shirt, so that they could put their nose up to it to smell the flowers instead of the awful stench that was in the streets.
Instead of the
and the
stinky
people around you.
Yes.
You think that we have manly men now. It was manly men back then. Men that smelled like men.
Yes.
Men that didn't want to be around other men because the smell of man was so strong.
The term "don't throw the baby out with the bathwater," literally, because it was the baby. Everyone shared the bath.
Yes.
Everyone shared the bath water, and the baby got bathed last.
Yes.
And the water's so dirty. Don't forget to find the baby before you throw the bath water out.
Aren't you glad you know that information
Good
now?
times. And once again, our lives, in that sense,
Yes.
physically,
Yes.
especially in the U.S., regardless of where we are,
Yes.
are so much easier than what they
Please.
used to be.
Please.
And are there people who have it much harder than we, like you and I, do right now? Absolutely. Are there people that have it much easier? Absolutely. But yeah, we
Yes. Yes.
I don't have to, worry. I didn't have to worry about throwing the baby out with the bath water.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I could just wash the baby in the kitchen sink and all was good.
Love the little picture. Everybody see that picture of the baby in the kitchen sink on the little sponge. Just looking so
right.
cute.
That's right.
Yeah, that's so very true. And I look at that not as we've become softer or weaker. I look at it as this is progression. This is growth. This is us being able to move through our emotional and mental and physical intelligence in such a way that we can just focus on different things and deal with different issues. Like the joke, first world issues.
First world problems.
Right?
Well, hierarchy of needs.
Right.
I mean, you're not going to be thinking about self-actualization
Right.
when you're starving to death frozen in a cave.
Correct.
So,
Again, perspective is everything.
yeah.
And I feel like, because sometimes I'll hear people say, well, we've just gotten soft.
Maybe we have. I mean, physically, maybe we have. We have
Correct.
to.
Or mentally, maybe we have.
Could be.
I feel like that, again, it's about the balance.
Right.
And the trade-offs. Yes. When you don't have to go out and labor for your living, and you can have, do a non-laborious job that makes better money, that allows for you to, be able to purchase the goods and services that you need as opposed to creating them for yourself. But eventually, if you don't also allow for that production as such, you find yourself where you've got a whole lot of consumers and not a whole lot of producers.
Right.
And so, again, everything is in balance. And so, why do I bring that up? Because it seems like it just went off on a tangent. Because that, I think, is the second step. So first it's a commitment to the self. And then the second step is in finding that balance between what you can do and what you can contribute, and then how you can support the contributions of others. And for me, and for some people around me, learning how to make certain foods that were gluten-free, I'm still working on the sugar-free, but that were gluten-free, came through a sense of necessity for me. I couldn't find what I wanted that I was going to eat in the marketplace, so I had to create my own. And then others came and said, hey, can I have some of yours? So now I'm both consumer and producer, right? And so I think that there is room for us to be able to find the balance and appreciation for both, right? Like, we wanted our kids to grow up and not be blue-collar workers. We want them to be white-collar workers. Well, now we're looking at, with what's happened and, all the funniness with China, and we don't get our good, cheap China goods anymore. And, I mean, I see this, it's so many different levels. There was something that I just ordered recently, and it was going to be delayed in getting to me by like 2 weeks because they were waiting on getting the products that they needed in order to create the thing that I was buying.
Right, right.
And so, when there's a interruption in the production line and you outsource that, right? So, people are homesteading again. Why? Because they're beginning to see and understand, hey, wait a minute. When we couldn't find yeast, a whole lot of people figured out how to make sourdough. And that's a good thing.
There was a yeast shortage, wasn't there?
Yeah, and that was a good thing.
I remember my mom talking about it. Yeah, it's yeah, I agree with you. It's a balance. I mean, regardless, if we're going to be humans on this 3D planet, we're going to have to work.
Yeah.
There is work. So whether that work is homesteading and, let's be off the grid and cut our own firewood and plant our own food and maybe raise our own meat animals and that type of thing, right? That's still work.
Yes, it is.
It's still work. Or the work is the 9 to 5, maybe, or, the 6 to midnight or whatever it is that the work is. So there's still work. And how whether we choose to be completely reliant on the economy and the society we're in, or we try to be completely
self-reliant.
Thank you. That both of them are work.
Yes.
So we find what works.
Yes.
For us.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And how we want to, I want to be in the rural area, but I want my internet.
Yeah, sure, 100%. Because that's all part of your self-care. Being rural and away from people, and yet still being able to connect to them
being able to do
via the Wi-Fi. 100%.
Absolutely.
And that's such a perfect, again, bringing it back to finding that balance, right? That's exactly what we're talking about. Taking that a step further. Talking about the sugar, right? So when my youngest was little and we were trying to change some of the habits because I worked, Dad was home. Sometimes Dad would go through the McDonald's a lot.
Sometimes a lot.
And so when we were wanting to make some different changes to the diet for nutrition and health and whatnot, I knew that there was no way that I could take this little 4-year-old and just say, no, I'm sorry, you can't have chicken nuggets anymore, and you can't have SpaghettiOs, and you can't have me, and you can't have that. Right? Okay, the 5-year-olds are great until you tell them no. Then they're like every other little a-hole, right?
Especially food.
Yes. So, so what I did instead was, I said, well, we'd go to the grocery store. Well, can I have SpaghettiOs? And I'd say, well, I don't know. There's a couple of different brands here. Why do you think that is? And he gives whatever answer. And I'm like, so what if we looked for the healthiest version of SpaghettiOs that we could find?
Right.
How would we do that? Right? So we'd start. So I had a 5-year-old that was a label reader. And it empowered him. He still got the SpaghettiOs.
Right.
If he chose to go ahead and eat it after he looked at and compared things like, sodium. Right? And if there were times where he was like, well, none of this sounds really good for me, Mama. Well, maybe we could go home and try and make some SpaghettiOs of our own. Right?
Sometimes you have to have the SpaghettiOs.
Sometimes you and if you still decide, he still has mac and cheese, Kraft mac and cheese, I'm not going to take that away from him. You know why? Because there's other things that he doesn't have anymore.
Right.
And so I'm not saying you can't have any of it. I make the personal choice to be the all or nothing gal. You may not make that choice.
Right.
And that's okay. And if you can just say, but I'm going to choose the best can of SpaghettiOs on the shelf with the least amount of crap, that is the most nutritious, that is closer to the earth than the other ones. And I will tell you, I am always surprised to find that it's usually the store brand or an off-name label, not the brand name. Just saying. Or maybe instead of SpaghettiOs, I'm going to, have fish. Whatever. I'm not judging. I'm just saying every choice that you make that is a positive one for your health is supportive and is enough for now. Because what I've also found to be true for myself and my family is that over time, the addiction, the desire, the taste begins to shift.
Right.
Right? And then, I remember in the 80s, we could buy a candle. We could go to the Yankee Candle store in the mall and get a candle and give it to our mom. And it smelled like warm cinnamon buns on Christmas morning. And we loved it. And now today, everybody has a hypersensitivity to scent. And anywhere you go, you're bombarded with some horrible, awful, god-awful scent that now comes out of a Glade whatever, right? Don't mean to offend Glade. I'm just saying. A cartridge you plug into an outlet.
I can't even walk through the laundry aisle at a grocery store.
I'm telling you.
And it's not because I don't like the scents. It's so much. It's so overwhelming to me. It's just like, yeah.
So you
it's
do
just
become
too much.
more sensitive.
Right.
And through that sensitivity, you make changes.
You continue to make changes.
And you continue to make changes. And so, are you going to do it like me? Probably not. But do something, right? Like make a choice, make a commitment to yourself, and then find some balance, right? Like, I'm going to eat fish and broccoli every day this week, and on Friday, I'm getting burros. That's okay. I'm not really, because I eat gluten-free pizza. But like, I could say that to myself, though, right?
Right.
Because I can allow myself to have that because I know that I'm doing other things. And there are some things it's like, no, I happily give that up and I have no desire or need for it. Now I have other things that I have replaced with that, right? Like, I don't have to have coffee. I've got a lovely chai tea. Yeah? And so, just making those small little incremental shifts and changes. Maybe you don't even change anything, but you go, I'm going to be more mindful about what I'm eating. Like, I'm not going to go and I just went about $400 worth of groceries. I am not getting rid of everything, but I'm going to be more mindful of what I put in my mouth, what I allow to pass my lips. That's a place to start as well. Right? I'm going to be more mindful of what I allow myself to hear and listen to first thing in the morning. I've really been doing this a lot. I love to get up in the morning, get my cup of tea, turn on the TV, and hear what the weather's going to be like for the day. I like to check just the local news. I get my other news information somewhere else. I don't watch television news. However, it's become to the point where I can't even do that in the morning because there's just so much other chatter that is disruptive to me in my morning routine. So I asked my husband, what's the weather going to be like today? And then I just go about whatever it is that I'm going to do in the morning. Maybe I'm going to do a little meditation, or I might listen to some little inspirational video, or I might, if I'm reading a book or do my yoga or whatever. But my morning time is my time to allow me to come back into my body, to gently, to think about what I'm going to do for the day, but not like wake up. Like, I used to wake up and like, okay, I made the list before I went to bed. Yeah. In my head for 3 hours. Finally fell asleep.
That's always good for sleep.
Yeah, right? Stop doing that too. So maybe I write down a few things that pop into my mind. Okay, I want to remember to do that tomorrow or whatever. Or maybe I wake up in the morning and in my dream time, they bring me little lovely, gentle reminders. Like, don't forget about paying your board dues. Could have used that one 2 days prior, but time is an illusion for them. So anyway, so yes, okay. And then you maybe make a little note on my little notepad or something by the bed or at my desk. But I'm allowing myself to gently and purposefully wake up to my day and allow things into my day or not to ensure that I start my day the way that I've committed myself to doing it.
Right.
And then going from there. Right? And it's always just a series of little fine tunings and adjustments, right? I'd love to say, here's my routine and this is what I do every day. I'm not really much of a routine person.
Yeah.
I like themes.
Theme girl.
I'm a theme girl. And the theme is I like to wake up and have a pleasant start for my day. It sets the tone and pace for my whole day.
Right.
Right. And then when I get home or when I'm done
And
with
there
my
is
day,
like scientific studies that actually
Absolutely.
show that.
Right.
And you talk to people who are satisfied with their lives,
Yes.
regardless of where they are, they will
Correct.
tell you the same thing.
Sure. And for some, it starts at 5 a.m. I'm not there yet.
Right, no. I try really hard not to
Yes.
start my day at 5 a.m. Sometimes I don't have a choice, but I try really
Yes.
hard. You know, when you were talking, it was interesting. I remember the comment of a very good friend of ours, Sandra. And I think it's important in this whole process too, and it's something that I try to remember. When you go to start self-care or to make a change in your life or anything like that, look at what brings you pleasure already, right? And add some of that in
Yes.
before you take something out.
That's lovely.
Isn't that lovely?
That's lovely.
Yes. So look at whatever it is, right? And add some of that into your life so you don't feel like you're depriving yourself. You don't feel like you're giving up all of this and you're miserable because of it. And
No, you don't need to be miserable with it.
no, there's no need for that. If you're miserable, then maybe that's not quite the perfect step right now.
Yeah. Back it up a little bit till you
Right.
get to a less miserable state.
Doesn't say you can't go there.
Right. Again, we can baby step this whole thing. And, you know, that made me think about something else too, where there's that justification piece to it as well. You know, well, I've been really good, but so-and-so has been on me to stop with the sugar. And so, or I'm just having this one little sugar today because I really need it, but I've been really good up till now. Hey, I don't need justifications,
Right.
right? I don't do them to myself. I don't need them from you.
You can just choose.
You can just choose.
You can just choose.
Here's what I will say, though. Be conscious with that choice.
Right.
Don't try to justify it or excuse it or, water it down. Just own it.
Right. I'm going to have this piece of cake here, whatever it is, because I want it.
Yep. And I give zero
And
about
that's it.
anything else.
Because I want it.
Right. No attachments to it whatsoever.
Right. And then if you're going to do it, enjoy it.
Right.
If you're going to do it, enjoy it.
Right. Now, I will say, don't make that a daily habit, because then at that point I would invite you to then look at, maybe you need to backstep that a little bit then, right? Like if every day you justify to yourself why you're having the fritter every day at 3:00. And I've heard all kinds of excuses. Well, I bought a box of 6 and I don't want to waste it. Okay. So after 6 fritters, you're never going to buy them again? Oh. Okay. And again, no judgment there. It's just, what are you going to do after the 6 are gone?
Right.
Right? I have a lot of people that I know too that have said things like, well, it's easy for you because you can cook your own food. I can't do that. So I have restrictions. Especially when it comes to gluten-free, because that's so true. There's a lot of really not tasty gluten-free things out there. And they're not super cheap. So you spend a lot of money for, something that tastes like dust. And again, I don't have any judgment of that. I'm with you. I don't want to spend a lot of money on something that tastes like crap either, which is why I've made the choice to make it myself. And I have factored in the time. And because cooking is cathartic for me, it's not an issue. It may be an issue for you. And again, you get to decide, what do you want to do with that? Because while it might be unpleasant having to take some time to learn how to cook something for yourself, it's also unpleasant when you have an upset gut because wheat is not your friend, right? So again, we get to find balance. We get to make decisions, which then allow us to present us with new opportunities to make new decisions. And it is a process. It is a process of finding that balance of, like you said, bringing in something that's satisfactory or pleasurable while you're letting go of something that is displeasurable with your other hand, right? And that is,
And that can literally be anything.
Anything.
Right? We're not talking about it has to be tit for tat. That's not what I mean.
Not at all.
Right? I'm going to give up sugar, so now I'm going to have, I don't know, now I'm going to have, I can't think of anything. Right? Now I'm going to have all the diet soda I want. God, that was bad. But
eat the sugar.
Yeah, go with
kidding.
the sugar. But I mean, it doesn't have to be tit for
Right.
tat. It can be, okay, I'm going to be letting go of sugar, but I'm also going to be getting a pedicure.
Right. I'm going to stop sugar, but I'm going to take up smoking. No.
Diet soda and smoking. Here we go.
Right? I'm going to stop eating sugar, and I'm going to, I don't know, work out in the gym for 3 hours every day. And that can be, again, because sometimes we can just trade obsessions or addictions for one thing for another. So you got to look at that. You got to look at not trading one bad habit for another. You got to look at what's your ultimate goal. Because if the ultimate goal doesn't seem satisfactory to you, then all the steps are always going to be a drudgery. You're never going to get the brass ring because ultimately that just doesn't work for you. And that's the thing where, I can say that I've done these things, but I've had to do them my way because if I was to do them the way that someone else told me, then that wouldn't have worked. Like when I quit smoking, I didn't go get on Wellbutrin or Chantix because I wasn't going to take that. If I was going to make the commitment to quit smoking, I was just going to quit smoking. And I did. I just stopped.
Yeah.
But that was my choice. That might not be someone else's choice. Somebody else might think, what? Just stopping? I drank a lot of lemon, lemon juice, water. But some other people might be like, no, I don't want to go through or even take the risk that I might go through those withdrawals. So, give me the patch, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll titrate that off. It's just about discovering you. Is what it really all comes down to. It's you relieving shedding the layers to get to what really is you and what is really satisfying to you. And just you, without any external outside. What you decide internally, you can then bring out externally.
Right. Yeah. It's the internal motivation can come from you moving towards the state of being that you wish to experience.
And there is 100% support in you having and being that. 100% support.
So, think about it if you're interested.
Yeah.
What is the state of being within you that you wish to create, experience, expand upon?
Mm-hmm.
And that can be your internal motivating factor for doing whatever it is that you want to do. So much of our focus has been, even as we've been stuck in our house, so much of our focus for so many people has been outside because we've been stuck in my house because of that.
Yes. Yeah,
because of them,
yeah.
Because of those rules, because of those laws, because of those people, whatever it is. So this is turning the locus of control back to you, because that's the only thing I can do. That's all I can do is control my experience, my thoughts, manage my change, focus on the state of being that I want.
Mm-hmm. And that can be empowering.
And that is where my power is. That's where everyone's power is.
Everyone's power is.
Yep.
And it keeps you from feeling powerless. The other thing that I was thinking about when you said that, just to throw out as one last sort of aside, is let's say maybe you can't think about what would be satisfactory. Another place to start sometimes is in knowing what you don't want. And I think we've talked about this before. I may not know what I want, but I know what I don't want. And that
I don't want to feel like that.
Right. And that can be a place to start as well. So if you're sitting here going, well, that's all well and good for you because you feel happy and satisfied, or you're not depressed, or you're not lonely, or you're not whatever. All right. Fair enough. And take that state of being, that notness, and untie the knot.
Right.
And find yourself moving away from what isn't working. And what you will find is then it leads you on the trajectory towards what can work and what will work and what does work for you. That is also a place to start. And in doing so, let the focus then be not on the shore, but on the ship that is sailing to the new seas, the new land. Because I can say that I don't want to feel like crap, and sugar makes me feel like crap, and I don't want to do that anymore. But I have to move away from that and into, okay, how do I eliminate the sugar and feel better? And as I eliminate the sugar and I begin to feel better, what else can I eliminate that helps? Because, okay, so I don't have sugar anymore, and I'm still not quite 100% where I feel like I want to be. And now I can actually kind of catch sight of what I want to feel, what I want to be, because I don't have all that extra baggage anymore, right? I've lightened my load, so to speak. So now what's that next layer? What's that next step? What's that next thing that, you know, and again, maybe it's something that's just, it's always something that's just inside of you. But maybe it's like, well, I don't know, everything outside of me is kind of, you know, in balance now. Okay, well then maybe there's still something inside of me. And it's each time that we turn inward that we get that opportunity to hear that small voice. And that is meditation in action.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's some of the things that I do, some of the things that you do.
Absolutely.
It's just one small piece. I mean, we may come back to this with, you know, more sort of relevant examples to share. And I wanted to share it because I do care about the state of this planet and the state of the beings on this planet. And while I could just sit over here going, I'm as happy as a clam, living my best life, all, you know, and doing me, and being me, that's not all that I came here for. I also came here to help, to support others, to help be that way shower. And well, before I was kind of like, well, I kind of feel bad because I feel really good. You know what? No, I feel good, and I want to share my good feeling, and I want you to feel good, and I think we can all feel good. We can separate ourselves from the bad feelings and still bring about great, massive changes. Change doesn't have to come just because there's shit going on.
Right. And once again, that's where, if we're stuck in moving away from the bad always works. Yes. And the power comes from moving forward in what we want, what we desire, and our state of being internally. When we are in that state of being internally, we create that state of being around us. Just period. We do. We do. It's not a thought. It's not, you know, I have to go do. No. It just occurs.
Yeah. And I think some of the rhetoric that's being put out there right now about unity and coming together, we're not there yet.
No.
Well, we need to, I mean, it's great. I'm not saying I have any issues with it.
It's a good thing on the horizon.
It's a good thing to work towards. I mean, put that anchor, pull the rope back to where you are. First, let's get that unity within ourselves.
Right.
You know, unify yourself. And when you do that, then you'll be able, I think we'll all collectively be able to see bringing that unity and balance for all of us as a collective. And I just had to say that too, because I hear that we're not there yet.
Take steps.
Take those baby steps, and you know, and it's okay, because we've all got a lot of calming down to do. You know, it's like when you get that classroom of kindergartners all excited. It's going to take you a few minutes to calm everybody down, and
as
so,
my son says, as we say, slow down.
That's right. Slow down.
Slow down.
Slow down. Slow your roll. Go within. See what you need. Address your needs. Feel better. A satisfied being is a productive member of the collective. Probably the most productive member right now. Because again, if we're all about vibration, we need more to anchor that better feeling vibration. I just don't want to label it at all. I don't want to call it a higher vibe. I don't want to call it a positive vibe. Just a better feeling vibration than what is currently being experienced in the collective bubble.
Right.
Because it does not feel that great right now.
No.
There are parts and pieces. Sometimes I walk past it. I'm like, ooh, that felt good.
Yeah. Yeah, there's glimmers.
But we could do this. Strong asses. And if nothing else comes of it, you have more satisfaction. And that is always a good thing.
Right.
Right? One person at a time.
Right.
I start with me.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm Sonya Lee.
And I'm Piperlyne, and this has been In My Experience.
Check us out on our Podbean, YouTube, In My Experience podcast, and our Facebook group, In My Experience Community. What else? Oh, email us at inmyexperience1111@gmail.com, and the Instagram is
in_my_experience. All right, friends, take care of you. Decide what you want to feel.
Yeah. And let's move into February with big ol' love hearts for ourselves. Look at there.
Take care of you. We'll talk to you soon.